So the final component I want to talk about here with regard to lifetime value is how to think about this over time, because we're going to build out a spreadsheet that says how much revenue do we get in each of 5 years. We're not going to build out full financials, but we're going to understand on a unit level, a profit level, how much one-time revenue do we get, how much recurring revenue, how much additional revenue, and what's the profitability there.
Bill, two questions. First,
yes.
Why does time matter? Looks like there's this temporal dimension to it. So let's discuss that. And secondly, why 0 to 5 years and not 0 to 3, 0 to 20, 0 to 10? Why does that matter?
So let me just address the first one, and we'll come back to the second one. And if I forget it, please remind me, Dean. We do it over 5 years because we're going to assume that we're going to keep that customer for 5 years. And the revenue is not just going to come in year one. It's going to come over time. That's because we're going to have a strong relationship with our customer. We want to go back to that customer. We want to produce sustained value for the customer. So looking at over the 5-year time horizon gives us that longer term view than just a transactional view. And we don't want to just be in a transactional business.
Well, why not 3 years, why not 10 years?
Okay, so we're going to lay this out over 5 years, and we're going to look at all those revenue streams and the profitability of each one in each year. And it's a really good question. Why at 5 years? Look, we know this isn't going to be exact, but 5 years is a reasonable time period to do this relatively simple calculation. If we start taking it out to 10 years, first of all, the complexity goes up and the value starts going down significantly. It's harder to calculate 10 years, a lot harder than 5 years, because the 6th year is much harder than the first year because we have more visibility. The second thing is we're going to talk about is $1 today is worth a lot more to us than $1 next year.
Yeah.
And this is just what we call net present value calculation.
Because you need the money now to grow your business.
Exactly. If we think about it, are we even going to be around 10 years from now if we don't feed ourselves today?
Yeah.
So our cost of our cost of capital that it requires, that we would need to go get more money is so high that after we get out 5 years, it's hard for us to even value that because our cost of capital is so high. And that means that for us to get money, and I'll talk more about this later, is over 20%. And so once you get to numbers out 6 years, if you net present those back to today and say, how much is that worth in today's money? It's really not very much. So at the end, the value of going out more than 5 years is not worth the effort in this kind of planning process. It's just not useful. And we talked before about, is something exactly correct or is it useful? We are looking for stuff that's useful, not necessarily precisely correct.
But you also don't want to be too short term, let's say from 0 to 1 year or from 0 to 2 years, because in this sense you might undervalue your business. Your customer may stay with you for a longer period of time, but you might calculate your LTV on a very short number of years, and therefore you may not even start the business that's potentially a great business.
Right. So you're right. So 2 years, 1 year is too short. Some would argue that 5 years isn't long enough. If I'm in the energy business, it might take much longer than that. So this is a good debate to have. What I've found is that 5 years is a very good time period to have the discussion in. And then if people feel like they need to make it longer, well, we're very open to that discussion. Making it shorter, well, then you're not really developing a deep relationship with your customer. And that's not the kind of business that we're super excited about. But that doesn't mean there aren't businesses that can go from 0 to 100 million in 2 years and be worth a lot of money. But we like businesses that build customer relationships and look longer term.